A liberator, a creator, and the father of machines. Karn is an absolute staple of Magic the Gathering, breaking not only the game itself, but the universe as a colorless, non-living planeswalker. But that's not exactly fair to say either, since he is alive, just not in the way that we're all kinda used to. Yes, he may not have a beating heart of flesh and blood, but he suffered countless tragedies and growth that I never truly realized until finally spending many hours diving deep into his story, which I want to share with you today. But first, I think we quickly gotta talk about the gameplay and his design before I then break down all of the nitty-gritty lore stuff. And on the surface, Karn's pretty simple. He's not about mana colors, he's just a universal tool. An artifact creature that can be slotted into pretty much every type of deck, since in Magic, colorless mana can be activated by using any colorless mana as a power source. But make no mistake, because as a result of being colorless, Karn's story allows him to develop, grow, and embody many different aspects of the Magic landscape. Since, as you know, Magic has the whole card theming based on colors thing, where their morals and ethics are tied to the very principle of their mana colors. So let's get into the insane story here. From the beginning, Karn, of course, wasn't exactly a normal guy. He's actually never been a guy. Karn began as an experiment, a powerful probe built by Urza and Baron in their efforts to explore time itself. Hence, you know, the entire time-traveling golem gimmick. And that's actually the reason that Karn's entire body is pure silver, because apparently silver's got some pretty crazy time travel resistance. I don't know, don't ask me, man. I'm not Wizards of the Coast, but it was clear to be the most effective tool in Comrade, Karn needed a special heart. You know, like all good tin men and real boys. And that's why big man Urza embedded the Chanta's Heartstone into Karn's chest. At least I think that's how you pronounce that. Look at the word Chanchas, I think. Basically, this was a fragment of a fallen Phyrexian, living machines from a very evil place, hellbent on taking over Karn's homeplane of Dominaria, and the race that Urza was hellbent on destroying. Ironically, this choice would be one of the worst and best decisions made in the war on Phyrexia, as you'll come to see in just a moment. As for Karn's personal home, well, that is none other than the Tolarian Academy, a school designed by Urza to prepare for the Phyrexian invasion. In the school, the greatest young minds of Dominaria were united there to study, grow, probably hook up, and get into all their science experiments as well. This is also where Karn met a young Teferi and Joira. And in a classic Teferi move, that wise guy mocked Karn, treating him like a toy for his own time travel nonsense. Luckily, Joira was much kinder. She was actually the one who gave him his name, Karn, which means mighty. And boy, did she accidentally nail it. He was mighty, and he'd prove it very soon after. Because you see, Joira got murked by a Phyrexian sleeper agent, and so my man Karn broke the laws of time in order to save her. Using Urza's secret time machine, Karn tried to bring her back, seemingly failing. Yeah, well, also shattered the academy, directly causing the original temporal disaster that froze time itself around the Tolarian Academy. And this was also the moment that Karn learned a huge lesson. Intentions can be good, but meddling with unrelenting power is a very slippery slope. A lesson that a lot of other characters in Magic will have to learn at some point as well. But at least for Karn, surely this will not happen again, right? Well, some time passed, but Karn, Urza, and Baron needed to get Tolaria back into action. The Phyrexians, of course, weren't gonna stay at bay forever, so they returned to the side of the school, ready to rebuild it. And when they arrived, Joira was there. Stranded for 10 years due to that time nonsense, but not only her, Teferi as well. Now, Karn was, of course, greatly relieved, but there was still a bit of a small problem. Teferi was trapped in a sort of chronostasis, and Joira, Karn, and Urza had to actually go free him. Luckily, at some point, they actually managed to do so, and thank goodness Teferi came out of that stasis a completely changed person. Both he and Karn both very much grew from that very moment, and the three prospects of Urza all walked out sharing a truly unique bond unlike any other. Though, of course, time is just a collection of fleeting moments, something that Karn realized after everyone kind of moved on. Joira and Teferi returned to their regular lives, and Urza moved on to some grander designs, and so remained Karn, loyal but fading into obscurity. And this is where his humanity really started to show. His heart was depressed, and he missed Joira terribly. He had some real emotions, even if his heart was just a power source. And so, just like all good dads would, Urza fixed his son by placing a mental capacity limiter in the golem's mind, as a result of which Karn could only remember the last 20 years, which in theory would eventually solve the "I miss her so much" vibes that Karn was giving, but Karn was a truly clingy friend, it turns out, for the better. So get this, to ensure that his memory of Jaheira would not fade, every night, Karn would hold a picture of Jaheira and whisper to himself, "Jaheira is my friend." I'm gonna cry, like this is legitimately the saddest thing ever. Urza is a really bad father, by the way, also. There, I said it. But he did build a great machine who would eventually go on to completely shift the entire Phyrexian war. And around this same time, Urza's obsession had just hit its complete peak. He had finally created the assortment of tools that would be his ultimate stand against the Phyrexian, his great tools that he then dubbed the Legacy. These are some iconic items like the Skyship Weatherlight, the Null Rod, the legally distinct Mind Stone, and at the center of it all, of course, was just Karn himself. But they were just tools, and Urza needed a human component to actually wield them. Yeah, a component is exactly what I meant to say, because to Urza, the warrior chosen to wield the Legacy might as well have just been another tool itself. The Twisted Weirdo bred specific bloodlines, creating the ultimate family, and Karn, our stalwart defender, was actually charged with protecting the successor, Gerard Capuchin, who of course was immediately kidnapped, and then Karn had to go all Mission Impossible to save him, which he did to his credit. Good job, Karn. But then also some weird adoptive family drama happened between Gerard and his foster daddy and his foster brother Kondo. Kondo stole the Legacy, Karn tried to get it back, but like all great evils in magic, manipulation was the big undoing of Karn, because Kondo managed to make Karn kill an innocent person and then froze him with the Legacy. Luckily, Giga Chad Jarrett here reanimated him, and the now newly reawoken Karn was struck by some immense guilt. So he actually swore a vow of pacifism, which, as you can imagine, yes, later totally backfired when he was captured and tortured by another bad guy, Volrath. Karn, with his new vow, was forced to endure this torture rather than being able to do anything to retaliate. He refused to give in, he reasoned, he negotiated, he survived. His pacifism actually worked against all odds. Until the odds then actually did become too great, as the Phyrexians had finally come to collect their prize, the entire plane of Dominaria. Now, during the Phyrexian invasion, Karn was forced to confront Tsabo Tavok, and I won't lie, she's pretty bad. I mean, look at these legs, man, like, yummy. Big mechanical spider mommy. I see ya. Alright. Well, Karn didn't see her that way, apparently. She was preventing him from protecting his home, his friends, and the life that he had cherished so much to this point. And then, a super critical moment in Karn's entire story occurred. The greatest thing to happen ever since sliced bread in Dominaria. Tsabo struck Karn a little bit too hard, and this shattered the mental cap on his memories, and everything came flooding back to Karn, including the memories of all the lives that he had saved and all the lives that he had taken. And at that point, Karn went beast mode, dismantling Tsabo and the Phyrexians, and celebrated with his master Gerard over their victory. But the war itself still pressed on, and it was incredibly difficult, especially once the big bad appeared, the progenitor god of all the Phyrexians, Yawgmoth. Yawgmoth went super beast mode himself and nearly succeeded in his big plan. In classic storytelling fashion, all hope was pretty much lost until Gerard did something insane. He combined the power of the two power stones that Urza had used as eyes, the Might Stone and the Weak Stone, placing them inside of Karn. So he pretty much turned the two nuclear keys all by himself, igniting the Legacy, and in an unbelievably massive wave of pure white mana, the Phyrexians and Yawgmoth himself were completely obliterated. But so were Urza and Gerard. An incredibly noble sacrifice was made by both of them, leaving only their legacy behind, Karn. But in this moment, he became more than just a golem. He became the sum of his individual parts, Gerard's will, Urza's power, and Karn's body, and he absorbed all of Urza's power, his Planeswalker spark, and became the first artificial planeswalker in Magic history. The Golem now had essentially become a god and gained the power to bend the multiverse to his own will. A will that he finally was able to explore now that his purpose was fully achieved. In some very twisted way, this was the moment that Karn actually gained independence for the first time in his life. Karn, for the first time, was now liberated. Oh, no, sorry, editor. That's not when he became Karn liberated. That story has yet to come. My bad. Well, with his newfound power and freedom, Karn did what he knew to do best. He created. And when I say created, I mean he really created. Literally creating his own plane, Argentum, which is just Latin for silver, a shining, perfect plane of metal and logic, untouched by chaos or even death. Which I gotta say, pretty sick, man. I kinda love that for you, Karn, though it turns out, as you can imagine, perfection is just kinda boring. Like, super boring. And so Karn was once again consumed by a great depression. His power was full, but his heart completely empty. Kind of feel you, I really do. Karn created his own probes, including the corrupted one, Mirari, which was actually a mirror to the hearts of mortals. It was a little bit twisted though, as I mentioned, like one of those weird carnival mirrors, as it warped those who touched it, twisting their desires. So Karn, seeking to contain it, pulled an Urza and turned the probe into a spider-like golem, the Memnarch. And then he just sorta dipped and left to explore the multiverse with Jeska, but Karn didn't really fully realize what he had just done here. Because remember when I described how Karn came to be himself and how his heart was actually the power source of a fallen Phyrexian? Well, apparently his heartstone had a little bit of an oil leak and it seeped into the grounds and core of Argentum. Particularly, it really messed up his pseudo-golem son Memnarch, and so the weird spider golem went pretty mad, reshaping Argentum into a mechanical plane obsessed with ascension, the plane of Mirrodin. At some point, Karn found the milk and cigarettes he was actually looking for far across the multiverse and eventually returned to what he had thought was Argentum. But no, yeah, his perfect world had been completely corrupted, and Memnarch literally put up a veil to block Karn out. So Karn had to actually pull some strings, leading to Memnarch's eventual fall, but Argentum as a plane was completely lost. And Karn learned something new, that creation was synonymous with corruption. He shaped the world, but since his hands molded it, it was inherently stained with his own flaws. Now, after this happened, a lot of time passed, which doesn't really matter because all of Karn's good friends turned out to be immortal and timeless apparently, but the multiverse had begun to crack and a bunch of time rifts tore through existence itself, and a good friend actually called upon Karn to help fix them. Joira, out of all people, was trying to fix these rifts, and we all know how Karn feels about her, so of course he answered and joined her sealing them up. Teferi was of course also there, but the rift closest to him, the one that centered around his origins, was a very brutal endeavor. Tolaria, home of the Tolarian Academy, needed to be closed, and to do so, he went back through the rift to its creation during the Phyrexian War. He closed it, but at the cost of his own spark. Oh, and then for some reason he just got flung back through time to the present. Turns out though, the Planeswalker spark was what prevented that sickly Phyrexian oil in his heart from ever taking over, and without the spark, the oil seeped deep into his core, firmly taking a hold there. And in a last-ditch effort, he then fled to Mirrodin, you know, the corrupted version of his plane Argentum, and told everyone not to follow him, like a dramatic teen turning away from home or, you know, slamming the door. But in his case, he didn't find a toxic boyfriend for the next year. Instead, he ascended to the throne of Mirrodin as the corrupted machine overlord. He became the father of the machines. But deep within him, his true self still was alive and fighting. But his shell now was a leader of immense destruction. Until the day when Venser, the Wanderer, appeared. Now, Venser was a great artificer who understood the burden that Karn had actually undertaken, and in yet another great act of sacrifice to purify Karn, Venser gave up his own life, and in doing so, gave his spark to Karn. This once again cleansed the golem's heart. Should have just used some Dove soap, man, I guess. That stuff gets pretty much everything out, I think. But regardless, Karn was now freed and reborn as a planeswalker once again, for the second time now, Karn was liberated. Now you can use the card art. Yep, there we go. Karn liberated. And now we get to talk about also the really big part of Magic lore, the time when, yes, Nicol Bolas tried to become a super ultra god thing by igniting the War of the Spark. The multiverse trembled under Nicol Bolas's reign, so Karn stepped into the fray to assist the Gatewatch, which are pretty much the Guardians of the Galaxy, but oops, all planeswalkers, and he teamed up with Dark Phaedon, Samut, and Ob-Nixilis to cross the planar bridge to Amonkhet, the evil Egyptian plane that Bolas had completely taken over as their god. And there, Karn went just plus ultra and destroyed Bolas's portal with a surge of raw, unrelenting artifice. Eventually, when the war was over, Karn stood tall. He watched the celebrations from the sidelines because his focus was actually elsewhere. Deep in the multiverse, he could feel it. He knew what was coming next after Nicol Bolas. The Phyrexians were stirring once again. And Karn wasn't having it. These dang Phyrexians needed to go pronto, and he returned to his home plane of Dominaria, and he went looking for a bowl. Yeah. A bowl, specifically the Golgathian Silix, a bowl capable of erasing entire worlds. So nothing to eat cereal out of, though it would probably still taste pretty decent. And this bowl would be the undoing of the Phyrexians once and for all. His adventure took him to the caves of Koilos, where he discovered Shieldred, another baddie spider mommy, by the way, who led the Black Mana-aligned faction of the new Phyrexians. She actually burned him alive in the caverns, and months passed before another planeswalker, good man Ajani Goldmane, found him, but the damage was already done. Ajani was tainted, completed by Shieldred, which is sort of just like evil force cyborg stuff that makes people Phyrexian basically. It's symbiosis, and it put Ajani under full Phyrexian control. So Karn waged battle with Ajani, but Ajani was too powerful and Karn fell. Ajani's axe actually remained inside of Karn as a symbol of his defeat, which meant that Karn, yes, was captured again, but this time he was dragged straight to New Phyrexia. He was dismantled, then displayed as a prize before Elish Norn, the mother of machines and the true leader of New Phyrexia, who, much to everyone's surprise, was not a big scary spider woman. Though a little bit disappointed. And his chest still carried Ajani's embedded axe, while his head was separated but still conscious, which, yikes, I think. Still though, Karn would not give up. He may be jumbled up and scattered, and his head was literally in the palm of Elish Norn's hands, but his mind wandered. And remotely, he managed to guide the mighty planeswalker Tezzeret, he aided the strike force, and had hushed whispers inspiring hope in the battles to come. Eventually, the final battle did come, and Karn was very swift to act. Koth and Malira, two very powerful warriors from Mirrodin of all places, rushed away with Karn, a very beautiful moment actually in the story where the good Mirrodin saved their purified king. Karn was then able to use his artifice powers to rebuild a body and made a massive final choice. He would kill Elish Norn. Not out of rage, but out of mercy. He tried his best to still stay a pacifist, but this needed to be done. And in one of the coldest full circle moments, Karn defeated Elish Norn, decapitating her, and raised Elish Norn's head up in the sky. After the fall of New Phyrexia, Karn had one last task to accomplish still. His savior, Malira, was dying and he could not save her, but they joined forces to purify Ajani and Nissa, their two close comrades, of the Phyrexian corruption. But at that point, their sparks were just completely bent out of shape, man. Like, Elish Norn had done a real number, and that's when Karn stepped in, and he gave up Venzer's spark himself for the same reason Venzer did, to purify the Phyrexian corruption. So he had finally done what Urza never could do, which is take responsibility for his own creations, but Karn's was just a little bit bigger, being the entire plane of Mirrodin itself. Though of course, Karn isn't even the only project of Urza's out in the multiverse, for there was another mighty warrior that made just as much, if not an even bigger impact on the world of Magic, the great planeswalker and chronomancer and fellow student of Karns, Teferi. And if you want to know all about his origins and his really crazy and dramatic story, check it out in this video right here. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoy these videos, please consider subscribing. It really makes a difference, and I will hopefully see you in the next one right here.